problem with it. Neither do I. Here with reaction, Oklahoma Senator Mark Wayne Mullin. If you read these declassified documents, and I have read them, it is very clear that they did not make the assessment that there was any interference, Russian interference in that election. The only Russian interference in the 2016 election actually was the Hillary Clinton bought and paid for Russian disinformation dossier, which we know was completely debunked. They knew it was debunked before they ever used it as the basis of not one but 4 FISA warrants. And then, of course, they had the meeting in the White House only weeks before Obama left office, and then minutes before Donald Trump was sworn in. Then it was the Susan Rice CYA memo. Barack Obama said, do everything by the book about a meeting weeks ago. James Comey said, do everything by the book weeks ago. So there's a lot here. They all lied. And I'm proud that this show and our ensemble cast of wonderful people, Solomon, Greg Jarrett, Sarah Carter, and others, we got it right. The rest of the media went along with the lies, the hoax, the conspiracy theories.
Yeah, and James Clapper was involved in this too, Sean. It's interesting to me how intertwined the Hillary campaign was and the Obama presidency was, because, as you stated, the IC, the intelligence community, prior to the election and after the election, said that actually Russia didn't even have the ability to affect the election. They weren't actually going after any one candidate. They were actually trying to go after and sow discourse and discontent with the election. And then going into December, you had Obama himself that had a meeting with James Clapper, who was the director of national intelligence at the time, instructed him not to see if they actually were involved, but said, how did they get involved in the election, which is quite different. And so when Clapper put out a memo, when he drafted it in the end of December and put it out the beginning of January of 2017, he instructed the intelligence community to come up with the conclusion of how that Russia was involved in President Trump winning the election. Now, keep in mind, the same time this was going on, Sean, Obama was saying that we need to have a peaceful transfer of power. This is the same group of people that was trying to lecture President Trump on a peaceful transfer of power, while they were actually trying to go behind the American people and say, hey, even though you voted this way, you got it wrong. You were actually a pawn of the Russian agent, knowing darn good and well that it wasn't true. They were playing into the hands of the Hillary campaign because they couldn't believe that President Trump and the American people just took back the White House.
Okay, so if we're going to look at what Kash Patel, the FBI director, opened this grand conspiracy investigation, I think you can make an argument that almost for 10 straight years, there has been an effort to undermine by deep state operatives our electoral process in this country and put concrete cinder blocks on the scales of an election. For example, we're now learning that, in fact, James Comey, with his famous July 2016 press conference, no reasonable prosecutor will prosecute, that he overlooked the overwhelming evidence as it relates to the top secret classified information that Hillary Clinton had. Then he went along with what he was warned to not go along with, which is the dirty Russian disinformation dossier that Hillary paid for. That's 2016. That became 3 long years. That hampered the Trump presidency. And the media, of course, went along with all of it. Now, fast forward to 2020. We have Hunter Biden's laptop. They knew from the beginning that Bob Costello, then Rudy Giuliani's attorney, had a copy of that laptop. They knew it would be public. That's right. In March of 2020, the FBI were able to authenticate that that was a real laptop. Okay, so they start meeting with big tech companies on a weekly basis, warning them they may be victims of a Russian disinformation campaign just before the election, knowing that it would come out. All right, the New York Post drops the story. You have people like Mark Zuckerberg and Jack Dorsey, then of Twitter. They asked the FBI, is this what you were warning us about? They didn't tell them the truth. They wouldn't tell them the truth. So that story got buried, more cinder blocks on the scales of an election. And then I would argue for the 2024 election, that's where the weaponization of our Justice Department against Donald Trump and these ridiculous charges against him and the Mar-a-Lago raid and the double standard as it comes to, top secret classified information, all of it combined. You have 3 elections, deep state operatives. They were out to get Trump every step of the way, setting him up every step of the way. And I believe that this can be proven at this point based on this new document dump.
Yeah, and Sean, this isn't conspiracy. This is factual. I mean, just unpack everything you just said by going just to the FBI raids and the classified documentations, the way they treated Biden and the way they treated President Trump. 2 totally different outcomes, 2 totally different suggestions. And then go back to the fact of what happened in the 2020 election and the way they tried to cover up what actually took place there. And then you go all the way back to 2016 and you have the Jameses, we might as well call them the James brothers now James Clapper, James Comey, who were both in cahoots together with the intelligence community that was trying to draw doubt to the American people. This is corruption and deep state as far as you can possibly throw a rock into the well. And it's scary because I don't want to believe in deep state to this extent. But the more Tulsi Gabbard digs into this, the more President Trump's presidency digs into this to unearth what's been going on in our voting elections, it is scary. And the American people need to pay attention, and people need to be held accountable.
Obama, Biden, Comey, Clapper, Brennan, Rice, all of them need to be questioned, every one of them. And we need to get every document we can find.
I
Senator,
agree.
thank you.